Welcome to Advocacy, where ideas take shape, thoughts find path, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. She's the author of the book Born to Rest, none other than Miss Lindsay Stadel.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome, Miss Lindsay, once again. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yes, I am actually from a small rural town in northeast Kansas. We run four family owned businesses. I've got my husband and I have four kids, three grandkids, and 13 employees. And I am a suicide attempt survivor.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Lindsay. Thank you. And today let's talk about your story of survival. In the moment your crisis began, what are the very first thing you thought, an instinct, a memory that kicked in and told you had to fight to survive?
The instant that I realized I needed to fight to survive was the first moment that I opened my eyes in the hospital after my attempt. I opened my eyes to realize that I was still alive. And actually, my first thought was, why didn't it work? But then my second thought, after seeing my daughter sitting by my hospital bed in tears, my second thought was, I need to fight to survive because I have two kids that need me.
Yes, definitely. And Ms. Lindsay, survival often requires a hyper focus on the next minute, the next step. Can you describe what that one step at a time mentality was like in the midst of chaos?
Oh goodness. Um, I was having to I was having to realize that I had to make amends with a lot of people. I was having to tell the truth. And after lying and cheating and stealing for a year, it was very hard to tell the truth to people. Um, I took a lot of intense psychiatric therapy. I committed myself to a psychiatric hospital. And once I started to fight my way back to a healthy mental state, that's when I was able to start making amends with the people that I had hurt so terribly.
Miss Lindsay, was there a specific, seemingly small moment or detail during the ordeal, or you felt a flicker of hope, or conversely, a moment where you felt hope almost extinguished?
You know, I didn't jump because I wanted to die. I jumped because I couldn't see any other way to live. And so when I felt like I had no decision, my glimmer of hope had disappeared. That's when my mind went dark and the decision to jump happened. But once I woke up in the hospital and started going to psychiatric therapy and realized that I can live a life, an honest life without cheating, without stealing, without lying. It became my greatest mission because I needed to figure out how to live my life in truth. And that was tough because I can remember all the way back to about 1993 was the first time that I had suicidal ideation. I was only 14.
Oh, Miss Lindsay, is it the book that you wrote is the same what we are talking about? Born to Rest.
Yes, that Born to Risk book, I've got chapter 21, and it gives a small look into what I did and why I did it, and then also how I came back from it. And then there's going to be three more books coming up in the next few months that will have more of the story, but not all of it, because the only time that I give certain details of the story are when I'm talking with amazing hosts like you.
Thank you, Miss Lindsay, again for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world so that people will empower it, learn from it, and be curious about it. So, we often hear about a life flashing before your eyes phenomenon. Did you experience anything like that? Or if so, what memory or person surfaced with the most clarity?
Um, there was a moment after I had jumped that I saw my dad. My dad passed away in 2014, and I was having a conversation with him as real as the conversation you and I are having today. And he told me, see, he used to call me Linz instead of
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay or kiddo. And he said, kiddo, you've got to go back. You're a mom. You've got Cassidy and Kyle to go back for. And then my dad never met my husband
Mm-hmm.
or my two bonus sons, but I again can remember clear as our conversation today. He told me that Tim and Eric and Jason were waiting for me. And when I woke up in the hospital after having that moment of clarity where I was able to talk to my dad, that is really when I knew that I was meant to be here.
Definitely. And Miss Lindsay, what did you learn about the relationship between your body and your mind during this experience? Did your body surprise you with the strength, or did your mind have to command your body to keep going?
Well, when I jumped out of the truck, I hit with such force that my head spinned and ripped the nerves out of my spinal cord. And so my left arm is not functional. And I have constant, everyday nerve pain. It's like fire, electricity running through my veins. And there's no fixing what happened because my nerves were completely torn apart. And so what I have found over the last 8 years is that my body and my mind are a lot stronger than I ever gave myself credit for.
Hmm.
I I've been asked multiple times, how do you get up every morning? How do you live the day with as much pain as you have? And my answer is simple. I have to. I've got a family. I've got a life. I've got an amazing life that I need to be here for. And so having a strong mind and a strong body is what gets me through my roughest days of pain.
Miss Lindsay, survivor's guilt is a profound and common burden. If you have faced it, how do you navigate the complex emotion of why me when the others why not have seen as a fortunate?
Survivor's guilt is definitely real because I ask quite often, why me? There was a young man not too far away from where I live that was 16 years old and committed suicide. He had his whole life ahead of him.
Hmm.
And when I heard about him, I asked, why me? Why did I live and he did not? And I do feel guilty for living. I do sometimes even feel ashamed when I'm out in public because of my facial deformity and my disability. But then I have to remind myself that I am here for a reason. And that reason now is to help others like that young man who unfortunately did take his life because he didn't feel like he had anybody he could talk to. And so I am here now to give a voice to those who don't feel like they have one.
And thank you for doing that, Miss Lindsay. Empowering people all over the world through your expertise is something else. Many survivors describe discovering a ferocious self they never knew they had. Do you encounter a version of yourself you don't recognize, and what was it that like?
Um, the old Lindsay died that night and the new Lindsay was born. And having the strength that I have today versus 8 years ago when I did not have that strength, it is very empowering because I've learned things about myself that I never thought I could do. I'm doing things that I never thought I'd ever do. And so the most empowering thing about that is I can stand here and I can say if I'm a one-armed woman and can do it, you can too. And so I'm hopeful that with me finding my inner strength, I'll be able to help others find the inner strength that they don't think that they have.
Definitely. Truly, truly empowering, Miss Lindsay. The world often expects survivors to be grateful and healed, but reality is often messy. What has the unglamorous day to day process of rebuilding your life actually been like?
It has been a tremendous struggle because I've had to tell people the truth about the day that it happened. I've had to seek out treatment for my disabled arm. I've had to seek out mental health treatment. And there's a stigma behind mental health treatment or behind the word suicide. And there should not be that stigma. Suicide is not a bad word, but people treat survivors with, you would think that they would treat survivors with a lot of kindness, and a lot of understanding, but they don't. And when you have a mental illness, you need people who are there to help you, not to criticize you. And that's what I faced a lot of after I told the truth of what happened. I was facing a lot of criticism, a lot of rumors, a lot of ridicule because of what I had done and what I had said. And if I wasn't as mentally strong now, I would not be able to, get past it. I would let it crumble me again. And silence nearly took me once before, and I'm not going to let it happen again. And I'm going to try my hardest not to let it happen to anybody else.
Miss Lindsay, survivors or survivorship can become an unwanted identity. How do you integrate these profound experience into your life without letting completely define who you are?
That is an excellent question because ever since I was diagnosed with my brachial plexus injury, which is the injury that happened to my left arm, I have felt that that's who I was. I am now a woman who has no use of her left arm. And what good am I going to be to anyone when I don't have that use? But I decided not to let my disability define me. And every day I show up in my office and I run the four businesses that we have, and I interact with our employees. I've even gotten out in a big semi with a trailer and driven it through the field. I will not let my disability define me or stop me. And so, learning how to deal with it when I have the intense pains that I have, sometimes I have to sit down. And even if that means I'm in the middle of the grocery store, I will sit down and I will get through the pain and then I'll get back up and continue on with my day because my pain is not what defines me. My past is not what defines me. What defines me is how I choose to deal with it, how I have risen from my past. And I am someone that, well, really, I'm someone who wasn't supposed to be here. I survived. And so the person I am today is a 100% new person. And it is every single day because I'm living days that I wasn't supposed to have.
Well, Miss Lindsay, survivorship can become unwanted identity, isn't it? How do we integrate this profound experience into your life without letting it completely define that you are one of those people want to experience this? What
I
give you a
know
lesson?
the lesson that I've learned is that you really can be anyone you want to be. And just because I survived doesn't mean that I should be less than, less than anybody else. Just because I survived doesn't mean that I should be handed things that I did not earn. I will fight for what I deserve. And when I am able to stand on my own 2 feet and fight for that, is what helps define who I am and helps me, overcome that survivor's guilt and the identity that the mistaken identity that people like to put on me.
Miss Lindsay, if you could go back and speak to yourself in the immediate aftermath, what is the one thing you would tell that shattered your version of you, knowing what you know?
Well, I'm going to go back just one step further. Instead of going back to the person immediately following, I'm going to go back to the person immediately before, because I if I'd have been able to tell myself right before it happened that I was going to have the life that I have now, I still wouldn't have believed it, because back then I didn't believe that I was worth anything. And then the person that I was immediately following, waking up in the hospital, I would tell that person that there is so much of life that you don't even know is going to happen. And so all you have to do is hold on, because you're not finished yet.
So, Miss Lindsay, for someone listening who is in the middle of their own crisis right now, what is the most important thing you want them to feel or know?
The most important thing that I think they need to know is that there's always someone who will listen to them. It doesn't have to be someone that they know, it can be someone like me. I've got life experience. I lived through my mental health struggles. I lived through my anxiety. I lived through my suicide attempt. And because I have that life experience, I think I'd be able to help someone else who's in that same position. I'd be able to tell them, this is what happened to me beforehand, and this is what happened to me after. And it doesn't need there's no need to take away a beautiful life over whatever it is that they're facing, whether it be, a lost job, a lost relationship, or whatever got them to that point, because there is always hope and there is always someone in their corner.
Yes, they always hope, people, so don't lose hope. So, Miss Lindsay, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101, love letters. Movie 101 review, music 101 our fourth season, science 101 and sex 101 second season, and my baby podcast, law 101, mental health 101, and Bible verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Lindsay, if you have carried the story with you, what does it feel like to share it now, and what do you hope it becomes for those who hear it and to be a legacy for your generation to come?
When I listen to podcasts that I've been on, and I listen to myself telling my story, it
Hmm.
is really hard because, yes, I lived it, but now I'm listening to myself telling the details about what happened. And I don't know why it's so hard to listen to it because I lived it, but it really gets me choked up. And so if I'm, what I want to be remembered for and what I want my legacy to be is that even in my darkest moment, there was still someone in my corner, and there was still someone that got me through. And now I am using that as the fuel on my fire. And so I want to be remembered as someone who is helping those who were in the same position that I was, and becoming an ally and shattering the silence.
Shattering the silence. Miss Lindsay, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you for empowering us. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, if you would please visit my webpage at www.lindsaystadel.com. You can find all of my other podcasts that I've been on. You can find the books that I'm part of. And you can also find videos that I've recorded and posted telling my stories and showing pictures of what I looked like post accident. But also find me on Facebook at You Are Enough, is my group name. And that is a safe space for people to come and seek out hope, seek out help, and seek out life.
Yes, people don't lose hope because hope is always in the corner. So, Miss Lindsay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Monica people, see you soon.